Hi everybody, this is Roman Cos. The guys from PPM have asked me to have a bit of a chat to you guys on discussing what I've learned over 42 years of very solid punting. So I'm going to break it up into various sections. First section is about keeping records. It's the last thing that most punters want to do. They don't want to keep records. They love keeping records when they're winning, but when they're losing they don't want to keep records. You need to keep records of how your bets have been going. If you're a win punter, each way punter or exotics punter, whatever method of betting that you do, you must keep a record. How else are you going to know at the end of the year whether your particular approach to the punt is working if you don't keep records? Keeping an overall record is good. That lets you know your profit and loss statement as you're going along. That's fantastic, but it's not as good as breaking it down into exact sections. Very important. We get into form. Probably the greatest factor in horse race betting is to do with fitness. Phar Lap will be beaten by a maiden if Phar Lap is not fit enough. It's as simple as that. So you need to assess fitness as your major criteria before you do anything. The biggest area of concern is first up horses. How do you know how a horse is going to go first up? You sometimes have its past record to look at. The past record says the horse has won first up, but where has it won first up? If we're racing at Flemington today and the win first up was at Scone, it doesn't mean anything. What sort of conditions would the horse win first up and under? Was it dry or wet? What's the condition today compared to what it won under last time when it won first up? What was the distance? Quite often you get horses starting first up over 1200 metres and their favourites based on first up efforts over 1000 metres. There's a considerable difference first up. So you really need to have a good look at the distance factor as to what its first up runs were like. I always find 1200 metres first up to be extremely dangerous. 1000 metres you can get away with it, but you need to be quite fit at 1200 metres first up. You also need to have a think about what class of race the horse particularly run at first up. If today we're racing in open company and the horse has only ever won first up against 2-year-olds or 3-year-olds, in other words its own age, or its own sex if it's a female, and here it is first up in open company, you've got a problem again. So those bland first up and second up figures that you see in the paper shouldn't be just taken at face value. You need to do some investigation. Otherwise you're going to end up backing the horse that's really up against it. There's other areas of fitness to do with the days since a horse last raced. Now we'll start with 7 days and less. Some horses cannot handle a quick backup. 7 days is too much for them, but you won't find out until it's had a try. So don't ever can a horse for having its first attempt at 7 days or less. But if you see a history of say 2 or 3 runs where it's backed up quickly and it hasn't run well, it might be one of those type of horses that really just needs a rest between races rather than being backed up quickly. They're not strong enough, their constitution is not up to it. You've got your 14 days, which is normal, that's fine. Every horse should be quite comfortable with 14 days, that's not an issue. Now 21 days exactly. Years ago I had a very bad run on the horses, and when I did my study of why I went wrong, I found the 21 days exactly horses where I was having the major problem. 21 days is 3 weeks. That for some horses is too long to be away from the racetrack. They get a bit stale, they lose a bit of their fitness, and it just doesn't work for them. Yet other horses 21 days is fine. They need 21 days. Again, you must go through the record of the horse. Have a look at its wins. Have a look when it's finished up close. Has it been a fortnight? Has it been 3 weeks? Has it been a week? What has been the average time in this class? It's important in this class. You can never forget in this class if you can do it. Because even though a horse can win first up or after 7 days against 2-year-old and 3-year-old company, if it's against tough open company horses, you need to have definite proof of its ability with the spell dates.